You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by Impact Dynamics, advanced training for the precision shooter. And now, over to your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. This is Rusty, and I have no idea what episode number this is because this one's a little bit special. We have a guest on the line. Paul Reid, how are you?
Hey, good, Rusty. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thanks for coming back and chatting to us again.
My pleasure. I'm glad you asked me.
Oh, absolutely, mate. The podcast we did a little while ago, which is getting close to a year, is one of our most listened to podcasts. So I guess we just got to get you back on more often.
I reckon half that's my family, so thanks to them for that.
That's all right. Doesn't matter how we get the listeners, as long as we got some listeners. That's the important thing.
Absolutely.
Now, I feel like a little bit of deja vu, mate, because we are, again, only a few weeks away from the Vortex Cold Steel Open coming up.
Mate, that's awesome. You guys continue to move ahead with the sport over there with a lot of brick walls. Keep it up. It's great work.
Cheers, mate. We're very excited, and some of those brick walls are starting to well, brick by brick, we're working our way in to try and make more and more of these matches. So it's very good. But we thought we'd get you back on the line because we need some more advice and some more tips. So
all right. I'm ready for you.
Well, we'll get onto that. But it has been a bit of time, and some things have changed in your camp. You who are you shooting for, and what gear are you running now?
This season I'm shooting for Team Curtis Alamo. That's two different companies. Okay. Curtis Custom make the actions that I run, and Alamo Precision Rifles do all the riflesmith work for me.
Right. Okay. Are they local companies to you?
They are. Old Curtis Custom's got some pretty nice actions that have come out, which we can talk about if you like.
Yeah.
But they're an hour from me.
Yeah, right.
And in the past, I'm having to ship stuff into different states to get it done. So I went down and met the guys. I got a local connection. They're great people. And I could drive across town and pick something up. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's certainly got to be an advantage, doesn't it?
It is.
I briefly saw one of the videos you did on their actions. Tell us about them, mate, because I'm keen to hear more on that.
Well, they started off making the Axiom action, which is brilliant. It's a 3-lug action, 60-degree bolt throw. It's got lots of neat little tricks. The way that you can change the firing pin assembly is pretty cool for cleaning and changing it if something happens to it. But this year they've come out with their Vector action, which is has a switch barrel system, which I did the video on where I'm changing 4 different calibers and hitting a target out 800 yards.
Yep.
It's neat as hell. So it allows guys to, because I've got 4 rifles set up identically. That was kind of expensive. But with this action, you only really need 1 rifle and you can go shoot 4 or 5 different short action calibers. It's pretty good.
Yeah, sensational. We'll make sure we put a link in there on that video. You started to get on the video production bandwagon?
Yeah, people ask me and I'm like, it's just easy to go and do it on video. I'm not too proud to see myself on the video, but if it helps them, no worries. I'll do my best to get it out there for you.
Yeah, excellent. And is there any other equipment that you've changed, or are you still running some of the similar gear from previous year?
A lot of it's very similar. My good buddies at WeBag, I'm kind of converted to their bags, their Fortune Cookie and their mini Fortune Cookie. So apart from the bag change, everything's pretty much the same. Okay,
I was going to ask you about the bags because I know when we spoke last time, you just picked up a Game Changer and had been using it, plus your customized bag. And then I saw Fortune Cookies in your last video. That's been a conscious change?
Yeah, never be scared to try something different. I still like the other bags. I just go practice with these ones. I'm hitting targets. I'm like, well, these will do. Plus, they're packed a little differently. They're a little lighter, a little easier to carry.
Yep.
I like the Fortune Cookie because it covers more surface area when you lay it on its side. So I feel like I can shoot a bit steadier off of it and it grips the barricades better.
Yeah, I was playing with one on the weekend and I've got some photos from that. I'm sure I'll put that up as well. Do you still have the other bags? Like, are you building a collection or are you still running just the 2-bag principle?
Yeah, everybody's got like a shelf filled with old bags they're not using. I still have the other ones.
Yep.
I, reluctantly changed over, carrying them to matches, but still using the fortune cookies. I've given up the extra weight. They can stay in the ute for now.
Okay. They still make their way out there?
Yeah.
Very good. Now, speaking of matches, I saw quite an interesting match you were involved with. I'm going to have a stab at pronouncing this, and I know I'm probably not meant to, but it's the Naurasa.
Yeah.
That's how it's said, right?
Good job, mate. You nailed it.
I try.
It's the North American Long Range Shooting Association.
Naurasa, yeah.
Yeah, I just call it the NALRSA because I don't want to sound like I'm stupid.
I've got no shame. This is the difference.
Mate, go for gold.
Tell us about that one, mate, because that was a bit different to the normal PRS sort of scenario.
It's a prone match off the dirt on a bipod. They have a weight limit. Total weight limit is 22 pounds on the rifle. That includes your mag and your rear bag, but not your suppressor if you run one. Mm-hmm. They have a really neat scoring setup, electronic scoring. They have targets that have a backing plate and a 12-inch centre. And the 12-inch centre is a scoring plate. You can watch live right on an iPad right next to you on the shooting line exactly where those rounds are hitting.
Yeah, nice.
It happens in 3 different heats. We shoot at 500 yards, around 700, and the final heat is anywhere from 1,000 yards to 1,250.
And so it's a bit more static in the shooting position?
You're just prone. There's a promo video I just put on my timeline to give you a better idea of how it is, but it's kind of a blend between PRS field shooting and F-class.
Okay. Yep.
I knew nothing about it, and I saw some guys that I'd shot with early last year standing there with these big checks in their hands. I'm like, hang on, I can beat those guys. What's this?
That's one way to get some attention, isn't it?
Yeah, so when you see someone holding a check with $6,250 on it that you're pretty sure you can beat, you get really interested in what's going on.
Yeah, I bet. Absolutely. Oh, here's you winning more awards, the gold medal International Moonshine. What a surprise to see you at an event like that.
Yeah, how about that? That's a buddy of mine who lives, grew up in Stock and Bingle next to Cootamundra. Mm-hmm. He lives near Canberra now, and he called me a couple of years ago and said, mate, I'm going to give away this IT career and I'm going to start a distillery.
Yep.
And I'm like, mate, you're bloody crazy. So he didn't listen to me, which was fortunate. Went ahead and did it, submitted one of his moonshines over to the American Distillery Institute Awards and won gold.
Wow.
So he rang me up and said, will you go and accept the award for me? So,
let's give him a plug. That was Baldwin Distilling Company?
Baldwin Distillery. Yep. Yeah. Out of Canberra. Anthony Baldwin. Good bloke. Don't get in a drinking competition with him.
No, because he'll beat you and then charge you for all the moonshine.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I've been slightly distracted there looking for this video, but I'm sure we'll track that one down and have a little look at Naurasa competition.
Yeah, their website is long-range-shooting.com. They're an awesome group of people. I won almost $20,000 last year. I shot 5 matches.
Wow.
Yeah, and the first match I shot down there all cocky like I could do something, I didn't even qualify for the last round, so... I got pretty angry and worked out exactly what I need to do, and I came back with first, then another first, then a second, and a first, and won the season championship.
There seems to be a theme because last episode that you were on, you talked about coming second to last in your first 6 matches, and it made you angry every time. And then here you are, top of the PRS. So
angry on the inside, guys. Only on the inside, not on the outside.
Determined or some word like that is what we're meant to use?
Yeah, I like to win, but I'm not scared to lose either. So when it comes down to trying something new and not doing very good, well, I'm going to give it a go to see how well I can be at it.
Sensational. The one thing you mentioned there about there's the weight limit on that type of competition. Now, that's something we often don't see in PRS. Did that affect what you ran or how you could run it?
Yeah, it did. That's a good point. Yeah, I actually add weight to my rifles in the PRS to get the balance point right. Mm-hmm. So I had to dump lead out of them, do a couple of things, change the bipod I was running to make sure I get into the 22-pound limit. I believe they have that because a lot of F-class shooters have some pretty fancy rigs and fancy bipods because there is a bipod width restriction. So they want to keep a lot of those guys out there and give a chance to guys that are more field shooters, hunters, and that sort of class. They have a bunch of different categories people could compete in. Even the guy who has shot the lowest scores can win a couple of $1,000. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. I guess that's one of the things that, is in many of those competitions that are a little bit more static is the weight of the rifle is limited, but we don't generally see that in PRS because you've got to actually get up and boogie along with the rifle.
Yep, you've got to carry it all day, but not weigh too much.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned before that you were talking about in the last episode, when you first started out, you didn't do so well, but kept with it. And you talked about a couple of points where you said there was a number of things that you tackled and they gave results really quickly. Two of those things were reloading and cleaning the rifle. We're going to have a bunch of guys in this country who are really at that stage and may not have the opportunity to go to club matches quite so often at this stage.
Yep.
What else in those initial periods could we really spend some time working on as we go through that process?
Basically, you need to try and get online and see what sort of barricades were shot at the last one, because you guys have a pretty good video or a bunch of pictures of what went down.
Yeah, good point. There's a stack of photos. Yeah,
a lot of these positions are going to be unusual to people, and you just can't figure it out by looking at a picture or watching someone else. You've got to get into that position. So just try and duplicate them as well as you can. Maybe not the same barricade, but maybe the same heights and the same widths. Like if they're shooting off a 2x4, we'll go grab a 2x4, hit a bag up there and try and get steady on it, and get prepared for how you'll move into those positions and position your rifle before you go to the match. It'll be a big help, because it's funny, I've seen guys shoot a barricade and I'll be like, no worries, I've got that. Then you throw your rifle up there, it's completely different. You don't have it because you're a little taller or a little shorter than them. Your bag's different. So give that a go. Look at all the pictures from the last match and see what's unusual to you, and try and duplicate it before the match and get comfortable in some of those positions.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we don't have the distances that you guys can shoot over there in the US for this type of matches we're doing here. We're often limited to 500 or 600 metres, Mildura being 600 metres. We really sort of put more emphasis perhaps on positions as well, because we can't push them out to 1,000 metres and such.
Fair enough, yep. Typically, a lot of the matches in America, there are a lot of positional stages. So, I mean,
of course,
back in the day when I was going to a match, I was a bit worried about. I looked at pictures from a previous match and I saw a barricade I'd never shot off before. And one of the guys that was standing next to the barricade, I knew him and I could see his shoulder height was kind of clashed. And I rang him and said, "How tall are you?" And I actually barricade.
Yep.
So, stuff like that. Just be prepared for the different sort of heights that you'll encounter. One of the things that I did a couple of years ago to make it easier on you, because some of these matches, they won't let you touch the barricade before you shoot it.
Yeah, we generally run that way.
I measured parts of my body so that when I walk past the barricade or around it, I'll go, okay, that's up to like my hip. So for me, that's 2 knees down to shoot that. I can't connect my elbow to my knee, or it's it's around my pocket height. That means I can connect my knee to my elbow, come up to my shoulder pit. I'm going to have to get on my tippy toes. Might be too hard. I need to use the lower bag, that sort of stuff. So measure yourself and what positions you can get in, so when you walk past these barricades, you can have a little heads up of what you'll need to do to move from one position to another.
Absolutely, a bit of a plan for how you're going to do it.
Yeah, and if I see someone shoot it really good, I'll walk up to them and make sure I'm about the same height and try and copy them. I don't care. There's no morals for me. I'll just
use whatever you can.
Yeah, exactly. So that's important. Just know where your body is on that barricade. That step height comes up to my pocket. Well, I need to be in this position.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a match director, I haven't worked out a way for people not to be able to bring their own body to a match, to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get there.
Speaking of matches and getting ready for them, one of the questions that I have had asked to ask you is about what you do on Friday before a match, which is often like an available practice day, or even in the sort of short lead up to, like the immediate lead up to the match itself.
Once I know the maximum round count, that ammo goes in the bag so that I know I can't accidentally shoot it, because it's easy to get carried away on a practice day and shoot a couple too many rounds.
Yeah.
So I'll have some practice ammo. If I'm allowed to go and shoot all the barricades, then I'll have a practice rifle with me. If I'm only allowed to go and mess around and, check my zero, confirm at distance, that sort of stuff, I'll have probably 30 or 40 rounds ready for that. before I go to the match, and this is an important point because it's like, no, we can check zero at the match. Don't fall into that trap. You get down to your local range, you confirm your 100-yard, 100-meter zero, and you do a chrono and check your speed. Because I've gone to matches with my rifle not squared away, and it's rained out that day.
Yeah, right.
So you're going to that match on that practice day to confirm your zero, not get it squared away. Have it squared away already. So when I get to a match to confirm my zero, that's what I'll do. I'll confirm the zero. Try and get there early. What happens on these zero boards that are put up is typically near the end of the day, they're shot out. There's nothing left to shoot at.
Yeah, true.
If that's the case, here's a technique I use at all matches now. I won't shoot the dots that are on there. I'll shoot a hole and aim at that hole. And if I stack it, I'm done.
Yeah, it's a sensible way.
Yeah, pick an open area, fire around at it, and put yours on top of it and go from there. And unless I'm off on my zero by an inch, I'm probably not going to change it. I'll pay attention to whether there's mirage present, that sort of stuff. But typically, if I'm off on the windage a little bit, like 0.2 left or right, I won't make any changes. It's the vertical I want perfect.
Yep.
And if there's mirage present, 0.1's close enough. I'm pretty reluctant to go to a match and make a change to my zero unless it's significant, if I can see there's a real problem there, because it's too tricky. The mirage is going to change it. Next thing, you've chased it all over the place. You burn up 30 rounds and, well, you're not sure if you've got a good zero. So pop a couple of rounds unless you see something major that's going on there. Don't stress about it too much. Just make sure you've got a good vertical.
Absolutely.
And definitely check your speed at the match. It's always different for me. Sometimes it's 10 feet per second, sometimes it's 20. I don't know why, I don't care. I just check my speed with 3 rounds and I put that into the ballistic device I use, the geoballistics. If you get an opportunity to confirm at distance, I don't know if you guys will, but I've been to matches where we could shoot at 800 or 600, and they put a pretty huge target out there. So one of the tricks that I and other guys do is if you've got that huge target, look on the berm that target's near and try and find a rock, something's tiny to shoot at, and shoot at the rock. See how close you get to it. See if you've got good, that's the true way to see if you've got good vertical dope. Shoot something, not something big. Yeah, we'll end up hitting the rock and go, okay, I'm good.
When you get that confirmation, is that pretty much, I'm done, shut the rifle away and go kick back?
That's it, absolutely.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is unless you get the chance to actually run the barricades, it's pretty minimal. You do what you need to confirm, build your confidence up, and then wait for the next day. Yeah,
exactly. Just pump 20 rounds down there, get your zero squared away, your speed, go hit something at distance and pack her up. It's beer o'clock.
Nice. Anything else on that prep side of things, Paul?
Well, yeah, okay. So wait on the beer o'clock. If you can get the match book, which is typical after you're leaving the range or when you're leaving the range, you need to study it. Try and get it in your head, how things are going to work the next day. Because, I used to wait until it was match day. Well, match day, you only get to study it one stage at a time. So if you get a chance to read through it, see what's going on, maybe make out some dope cards in preparation so that all you have to do at the stage is to fill in what your dope's going to be, then go ahead and do it. In fact, anyone who's out there using ballistic arc from geoballistics, I preload the entire match into that the comp mode before the match starts. So next day, all I do is pull it up and verify the conditions and get my dope. It's very handy.
Yeah, good way to do it and be well prepared.
Exactly. So study the match book and make sure you understand what's going on, then just kick back and relax. If something happened during that day where, the dust storm kicked up or something and maybe your action got a little dirty, go ahead and clean it tonight. Clean that bolt out, clean out the chamber and make sure it's all clean. And if it is a dusty environment, then limit the amount of oil you use on it. Because I've oiled my stuff up thinking I'm doing the right thing, and I go to somewhere like Oklahoma where it's a dust bowl and the thing stops running after about the third stage. So
yeah, okay.
Pay attention to the environment you're shooting in and adjust accordingly.
Fantastic. One of your latest videos that you put up is about free recoil, and I know we sort of mentioned this last time we talked. Be a topic I think is worth bringing up again, because I know there's a lot of guys who continue to ask questions about it and seek clarifications. I've got some of those sort of questions here. Can you give us an overview, and then we can get into some deeper point of what free recoil is and why and when you would use it?
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to. First up, who's Michael Stubborn? Is he a decent bloke?
Nah, no idea who that bloke is. Never heard of him. Was he shotgun shooter or something, is he?
He probably is. Must do ski. He reached out to me. I've answered questions over the past year or so on people asking about free recoiling, and he reached out to me and asked me a couple of questions. And I got that side shot scope cam. I've had it sitting in the box for a while. I only used it once, and I went, man, I need to just pull it out and go and do a video where there's two angles. There's the angle of me shooting it, trying to explain what I'm doing, and then there's the downrange one. So I think that video worked out pretty good.
Yep.
Got to get that phone to focus correctly, but it wasn't bad. And I think a lot of guys can watch that video and most of the questions are answered.
Yeah, very true.
But for recoil and free recoil, basically it's a way for newer shooters or shooters who haven't tried it before to understand how much of themselves need to be on the rifle when they're shooting barricades, and there's a lot of movement in their scope. So how much of you should be on the rifle to make a successful shot? In the video, I'm actually free recoiling with my stock folded up, so you can see it's not on my shoulder.
Yep.
And I'm making some pretty good hits there, but I've had a lot of practice. If a newer shooter wanted to go ahead and throw their rifle on a barricade with a bag and it had a good balance point, that rifle will just sit there on its own. It won't move. It'll sit on target. There'll be no reticle movement. All of the movement comes from us. You have to work out how much of yourself should be on that rifle to get it to calm down and pull a good shot. So get behind it, put yourself on it real hard, watch the reticle, then slowly just back yourself off of it. As a rule for me, when I free recoil, I like the butt pad of the stock to touch my shoulder just enough to push my shirt against my skin.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the recoil is soaked up in my hands. I push down with my left hand and I push forward with my right. It's a pretty handy technique. Find me on Facebook, Paul P. Reid. One of the videos is up recently. Have a look. Ask me any questions you need.
I think we're going to have a few disappointed people in your Paul, actually, if Mick again wins the Vortex Cold Steel Open, because he won last year and people might be blaming you if he does it back-to-back.
Did he get rid of that Ruger RPR? I can't believe you guys let that happen. What happened? What's going on there?
Well, he had a different barrel. You know, that's all I can offer in defence. It wasn't a Ruger barrel. Does that help?
Not to say that's not a good rifle. I actually won a club match with a Ruger RPR just to see how it shot. So they shoot good, but you guys with your custom rifles, you've got to get around these factory ones.
Yeah, it seems so. Hey, speaking of which, question without notice, which half of them are, the Lithgow 105. Have you looked at that at all?
Mate, I don't even think it's available over here.
No, they're not out yet at all. But you're aware of them?
No, tell me all about it.
It's a latest rifle from Lithgow. It runs a KRG, sort of a hybrid between the X-Ray and the Whiskey 3 chassis.
Okay.
And it's looking quite good, coming out in 6.5. I know that they will be distributed over there through Legacy Sports for anyone who is listening from the US.
Oh.
And they are locally made in New South Wales, and they seemingly shoot like stink. Speaking of factory rifles.
That's awesome. I just pulled them up on the website. So what sort of chassis are they running? Are they just doing a barreled action?
They come with a KRG.
We all know I like that stuff.
Yeah, no, I thought you'd be happy with that. And I guess it's like a Whiskey 3 4-end with the rear of it as the X-Ray. I guess to keep the price, quite reasonable. They're going to be well priced over here, which is very nice. And yeah, we're hoping to see them sort of mid-year. But anyway, some local flavour for some of the PRS factory guns, which will be good.
Mate, that's awesome. I'm looking at it. That looks like a good rifle. That would definitely, if you were going to start shooting in this sport in Australia, that's the rifle to go look at right there.
And I have seen some results of them being shot, and they back it up as well.
So, well, I do have one of their rifles actually sitting in my safe. I found it in a pawn store in Plano, Texas. It was built in 1917.
Right. Well, you should use that in the next match.
Yeah, I might. No. Anyway.
Wonderful. Hey, you mentioned the shot camera that you're using.
Yep.
Just out of interest, that mounts on the side of the scope, so it allows you to still see through the scope. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. Yep. Use the mirror system in there. You put there's a mounting ring.
Yeah, right.
That goes on the on the scope,
mm-hmm.
and it just slides onto it and locks into place. Works pretty good.
Yeah, right. It's pretty easy to set up.
Yeah, it is. It's not hard at all. The overcoming technical difficulties like knowing how your iPhone works and getting it stop auto-focusing, that's a problem you'll have to sort out. But that mounts, it's solid. It's a great training tool, actually.
Sensational. Yeah, no, I saw that in your video. It did look quite good, and I have seen a couple of guys here with them, but I've never grabbed one, and could be a really good thing for some guys to really be able to sort of get a second set of eyes downrange, or at least, watch it back after the fact for some options to improve their shooting.
Well, for a lot of people, it's the missing piece with watching someone shoot is to see what's happening through the reticle.
Mm.
If you're out trying to practice so that there's no reticle movement, it doesn't happen. That reticle's pretty much always moving, and you can see my breathing in there and how my timing's become to pull the shot on the out breath. So that's definitely something new shooters need to work on.
Mm. Now, I've seen a couple of videos that you've done on the free recoil side of things, and so the ones I've seen, I may have missed some, have all been done on barricades. Is this a theory that works really well on barricades, but perhaps not so much prone?
It's just not necessary for prone. We can get in a good, stable position with the rifle square on our shoulder. Not necessary at all. It's just for when you get bound up on a barricade and that reticle's going all over the place. You've just got to stop yourself and say, hey, this rifle will sit here without me touching it. So I've got to touch it the least amount possible to calm that reticle down.
So it's really employed when the position is less than ideal and you're inducing additional movement.
Exactly, yeah. Just for unusual positions, probably never prone.
Gotcha.
When it's those big checks, free recoiling from the prone position in the NALRSA.
It always gets serious when there's big checks.
Absolutely.
The other question I had about free recoiling, do you notice a difference in your point of impact if you are prone and then you pulling it in normally and then you move to the same sort of setup in free recoiling? Do you see a point of impact difference?
If you do it wrong, yeah. A lot of guys will practice at 100 yards. They'll shoot a paper target, so you can see exactly what's happening. You just have to try and determine what's making that zero shift happen. Is it me not pulling a good shot? Is the reticle moving when I pull the shot? For me, I've found that if I pull a perfect shot, there is no zero shift.
Okay.
But if you're in a match and you notice you're hitting high right, well, aim low left. Believe the bullet and do what it says. But I don't change anything. I aim exactly where I think I should aim, as if I was shooting prone.
Yeah, okay. One of the big questions I had from people was whether or not you do this all the time, or this is like a barricade sort of positional basis. And I think that's really good to clarify, because I think a lot of guys were trying to get their head around doing it prone and not really coming up with great success.
Yeah, it's barricade only, and guys, it's only a piece of the puzzle. If you're struggling with certain barricades, then try a little free recoil.
Yeah.
Take yourself off the rifle a bit and see how it goes. And I will, when it comes to certain barricades, I mean, there's a couple of methods available. Like you could shoot it with a sling, you could free recoil it, you can free recoil off this bag, you can hold it hard with this bag. I'll go to the range, set up paper targets at 100. Typically, they're 3-inch shooting Cs. And I'll try every different method, and the one with the tightest grip wins. That's all there is.
Well, that's a good process of elimination. One of the other videos that I remember seeing a long time ago that probably the first time I watched anything or heard anything from yourself was about load development. Do you still use that same method?
Yeah, I do. Actually, that was an article I did for the club.
That's what it was, yeah.
The exact same method. Nothing's changed.
For those who haven't read that article, and I will link it in the show notes here, give us a bit of a rundown, because I found it as a pretty much to the point, pretty simple and easy way to go about it.
Yeah, I don't know why people want to overcomplicate it, but there are other methods out there other guys use that work for them, but, they're seasoned. That's what they've always done. I'll run you through what I do. But the article explains everything. These are the bullet points.
Yep.
if it's a new caliber to you, then somebody you know in the shooting circles that you travel in is going to know a good starting point. So get your starting point, and I will load up, let's say, for example, as in the article, it was 6 Creedmoor, and someone gave me a starting load of 41.5 grains of H4350 with 105 hybrids. I'm going to load 6 rounds at 41.5, 6 rounds at 41.7, and 6 rounds at 41.9 grains of powder. And if you want, you can go to 42.1. It's up to you. Mm-hmm. I'll set my target up at 100 yards, 100 metres, whatever you like. And if you go to a range you're not familiar with, verify the target boards is at 100 yards or metres.
Yeah, true.
Because some of the ranges over here want to get military contracts, and they are at 100 metres, not 100 yards. So,
yeah, okay, yep.
I use the 3-inch shooting Cs. You can use whatever you want. Typically, it's important to not have a perfect zero. You want to be close to your aiming point, but you don't actually want to shoot it. Mm-hmm. So if you're sitting up there with orange dots, dial your scope so that you're to the side of them. You don't shoot the dot up. I'll set up 2 rows of targets, one on the left, one on the right, 41.5, 41.7, 41.9, and I'll shoot that left side first, 41.5, 41.7, 41.9. Then I'll take a bit of a break, let it cool down, and I'll come back and I'll shoot the right side, 41.5, 41.7, 41.9. Exact same process. Tightest group wins, no emotion. That's it. Yep. And if I don't like the results, or I think there's a group that could shoot, and I was having a bad day, well, I'll just get that one load and I'll load 9 up, and I'll come back and retest it. Fortunately, I haven't had too many rifles that didn't shoot, so it's always pretty evident to me what's the best load.
Yeah, I like how to the point and simple it is, and probably also is able to sort of match the shooter's ability. I've seen some of the methods where you have to be like a sensational reloader to be able to see the variation in using so few rounds. Whereas I like this one, you've got a bit of variation there. You go, that was me. I can redo this or that, adjust accordingly.
Yeah, exactly. And just a quick word on, there's an obsession out there to shoot 5-shot groups. I get it. But I've found that over the years that the 5-shot groups is more about showing me as a shooter and not so much the capability of the load, because, man, I can stack 4 in a row, but then that 5th one comes up, I'll sling it every time. So you can learn everything you need to know about your rifle and that load from 3 shots, period. Don't do 5 shots anymore. It'll drive you crazy.
Well, I guess if your gun doesn't shoot 3 shots well, it's not going to shoot 5 shots well, is it?
True. And some guys that have sent me groups over and over again, I'm like, mate, just go to 1-shot groups. That'll fix it.
That'll resolve the problem.
But it's a frustrating process. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. How long would you say you normally spend on load development when you get a new barrel?
Man, I just go shoot that target and I'm done. I started off doing load development from the very first shot. Well, I do 5 warm-ups, so 6th shot was my load development. I was straight into it. Yep. Some guys will put 100 rounds on it before they start load development. Mm-hmm. I've done it both ways. It's always worked out the same for me.
Okay.
So in those 18 shots or whatever it is, I'm done with load development. I'll burn the barrel out like that.
Yep, and away you go.
Yep, that's it. I mean, every now and then I'll check the speed, make sure it's still good, see if the barrel's burned out. But, man, I shoot the same load from the start to the finish.
It's a good way to be. You've mentioned a couple of times, particularly when you were talking about geoballistics, that you update information for the atmosphere and wind and such, and you also mentioned about mirage when you were zeroing in or checking your zero.
Yep.
I'd be curious to know, in the last episode we did talk about how you had a method of doing your wind adjustment and working that out. But we didn't talk about how you actually go about reading the wind and getting that call of how fast the wind's running. What methods do you use, and have you got any advice for some of these new shooters?
Well, I do have a Kestrel that I cart around with me. I only use it just for atmospherics, mainly DA and wind speed. Mm-hmm. All the wind direction stuff, I get that by throwing grass in the air, kicking up dust. That's a good one.
Yep.
The best indicators for me is what's happening at the target with mirage, and also dust that's kicked up from missed rounds or even paint smoke.
Yep.
Birds are pretty good if you can see birds. Unfortunately, birds seem to be scared of guns. No, but I've been at ranges that are like, I would describe it as a shoebox lane. Like K&M and Core have these type of lanes to them. They're heavily wooded, real high 80-foot trees either side of it. And the wind is coming in from the right over the trees, hits the trees on the left, and the wind comes back at the target. It is a right to left wind, but at the target, the dust is going left to right, giving you a false reading.
Right.
So
Yep.
I've been in those scenarios, and every now and then you'll see a big old hawk that's up there about 200 foot looking for something to eat. And when birds don't flap their wings, they are pointed straight into the wind. That's all there is to it.
Mm.
So if you can get lucky enough to see something like that, or if you see that the wind's left to right, but everyone is holding to the right, well, don't get fooled. The target tells you the true story of what's happening down there.
Guess you're fairly qualified to talk about wings and wind and flying.
Everything that flies takes off and lands with the wind.
Yeah, it's a good lesson learned. I hadn't thought about the way the birds fly if they're not flapping wings. That's a good move.
Yeah, anyway, but for me, I mean, mirage is difficult. You can definitely get the direction, but the number one way I look at where the wind's coming from is I watch what happens at the target.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're watching someone who's not that good and they actually miss a couple of times and pick up.
Because I know you're a big advocate for having binos to be able to look down range and see what's going on when you're observing a stage.
Yeah, don't watch when Matt Russo or Dave Preston's shooting because they just keep hitting the target.
Just wasting your time, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll see what's happening at the target. I'll talk to the other shooters.
Yep.
I won't necessarily ask them what they held. I'll ask them what they're going to hold and see what happens on their first shot.
Yep.
And I'll just take my best guess and I'll try and stay on that scope and see where it goes.
So I guess you're using everything that is in your vision and to everything in your ability, and away you go and see how that first one goes and adjust from there.
Yeah. And pretty much, and if you miss off the edge, this is an important thing for the new guys. If you miss off the edge, you go, man, I just missed it. I'll just make a small adjustment. Don't do that. Make an adjustment by half the target width every time.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time I make a small adjustment because I just missed off the edge, guess where the next one goes? Just off the edge.
Yep.
So if you've got to make an adjustment, make one that's at least a half the target.
Yeah, bring you back onto centre.
Yep. Hey, I'll take an edge hit. I'm not proud.
Yeah, wherever it goes, as long as it hits.
Hey, guys, cancel that one out. That was an edge hit.
I guess if there's 20 grand on the line, you would take whatever hit you can get.
I'll take a strap hit. I don't care.
That was definitely on the frame. I'll take it. Take it. Yeah, excellent. And how's the year looking for you for PRS? You getting to a few matches?
Yeah, I've got 10 lined up this year. I've done 2. I mean, I think I'm middle 20s on the scoreboard, but that doesn't mean it because we're so early in the season. I've only got 2 down. I'll read you out the matches I got. I got it right here.
Yep.
Next match is the Lone Survivor match. That's in Navasota, Texas. Following month, later this month, Alabama Precision Rifle Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
In May, I'm going to Open Range up in Oklahoma. End of May, K&M up in Tennessee. Heatstroke Open in July, back in Oklahoma. NPA Summer Shootout in August. That's up in Georgia, I think. Gap Grind in Tennessee in October. Lone Star back here in Texas in October, and then we'll do the final somewhere in November, and there's a bit of a gap in the middle months when it's really hot. I don't know what I'll do. Probably go north for that.
Yeah, fair enough.
North here is cooler, not like you blokes.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd go north. End up in Darwin here, and that's no good because you might be near Butters.
Americans can't understand that birds fly north in winter. Right.
You're pretty happy if any of our listeners are at any of those matches coming up, and they can come up and say good day and ask you about free recalling?
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely. Just come find me on Facebook, Paul P. Reid, send me a message, whatever you like. I'm happy to help anyone. But if we're friends on Facebook, don't come up to me like we've known each other for years. Just let me know who you are. I think guys do that, and I'm like, I don't know who you are.
I have no idea who this bloke is. Yeah, but, g'day, mate. Yeah, how you going?
But, mate, yeah, absolutely. Come to me at a match, contact me anyway. I will help anybody, tell you what I'm doing, no problem.
Nah, sensational, mate. It's certainly really good for the community, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to chat to us and share some of this knowledge and wisdom you've built over the last, 6 or so years since you started?
Yeah, 6 years. Geez, time flies.
Yeah, doesn't it? Excellent, mate. Is there any other suggestions or advice you want to give out before we finish up?
Well, we could go over what gear I take to the match, like in my backpack, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be wonderful.
I've got to redeem myself because you asked me this last time and I almost forgot to tell you I take bullets, so that was pretty embarrassing.
Oh, well, minor details. You just pick up some factory ammo at the local gun shop, don't you? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, I got a 6 Creed, you got 243, that's close enough. Give it to me. Let's start off with ammunition. I take my ammo.
Redeemed. Check.
Yeah, and typically whatever the minimum round count is for the match, plus 20 rounds, just in case. We mark our brass over here because, you've got hundreds of shooters. It's nice. You guys can or not, but if you want your brass back, I suggest you mark it.
Yeah, I am going to be highly recommending this time around that the guys mark their brass. We haven't really seen a lot of it, but those who have marked it usually end up with their brass back almost completely.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
No promises.
No promises. All right. Well, and if it's raining, get your brass right away because after the next guy tramples it into the mud, it's all over. So
true.
Moving on. 2 mags. I have a mag pouch that holds both my mags that goes on my hip, and those 2 mags, I'll put them in the rifle and make sure ammo runs through them before the match. I'll make sure the safety's on, but I do want to know it feeds good and there's no issues putting the mag in or pulling it out again. And if you get a bad mag that just doesn't want to play the game, get rid of it because there's nothing more frustrating than having a mag pining up on you in the middle of a stage while you're on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Those mags need to work and the ammo needs to feed. Let's see, knee pads and elbow pads. It's up to you if you want to damage yourself. At a minimum, I take elbow pads because sometimes we'll shoot off of cars where it's really hot. I don't want to burn myself.
Yeah, good thought.
I always have my binoculars, which are also rangefinders. I use the Swaro L range. They're pretty nice. They're a 10 power, and what I find is that as I look at the course of fire, if I can see a target with ease, then I'm going to start my scope power at 10 because I got the 10 power binos. Now, if I'm struggling a little bit to see the target, I like it to look bigger, I'll go to 15.
Mm-hmm. But
on that point, guys, it's really important that you do not go into these stages with too much power on your scope because you won't find the targets. So always go in with less power than you need, 10 to 15, and if you get on target because you found it because you're at a lower power, go ahead and power up to shoot at it. No problem. I have a sling I'll throw in there. I'll check the flash cups, make sure they're good to go. I have a bag with some stuff in it, little bag that's got tools and stuff in it. I'll go over the rifle and I'll get an Allen key or a screwdriver head or whatever for every single thing that turns on that rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll make sure that's in my toolkit. I got my Kestrel for wind.
Are you only running 1 Kestrel these days? Because last time we spoke, you ran 2 and you said you didn't know why.
I still have the 2. I'm not giving up my original Kestrel.
No.
But like I said, I only use them for atmospherics, so yeah, why not? I had 2. I carry 2 mobile phones in case one, stops working.
Yeah, well, that's it.
I have dope. If I can't get a bullet on target, there's a problem because I've got redundancies out the redundant.
Well, 2 is 1 and 1 is none, mate.
There you go. Let's see, I also have a dope holder. I use a Sidewinder right now on my rifle, but I still carry my backup, which is the wrist coach that goes on. That's really important. I see these guys strapping themselves with painter's tape and writing on them. Don't do that. Just go get a wrist coach. They're cheap. And you need to be able to read your dope off to yourself while you're shooting. Hearing protection. That's about it. Everything else is in the ute, like a spare bipod, anything to keep my rifle running, but that's my backpack pretty much right there. Oh, my bags. Yeah, I got my bags too, of course.
Of course, yep.
But I'm pretty sure that's it, mate.
That's about the lot. Everyone seems to have a little different take. We did a night both in Adelaide and in Melbourne where we had a few shooters, hunters as well, sort of empty their bags and what they would normally keep in their backpack, and generally speaking, it was all pretty similar, but there was a few different sort of variations. Everyone seems to have their own take on exactly what they need, but most bases are covered. It's kind of good to see.
Yeah, we're lucky over here that some of the matches we shoot, we can actually drive our cars around from stage to stage. Now that's just a gravy walk by there because you just keep your stuff in the car. But if you walk, make sure you only carry what you need because you'll get tired by the end of the day. And if it's hot, you're going to be dehydrated.
Yeah, that was no issue at the last Vortex Cold Steel Open, but this one might be a little warmer.
So in the early days, I did have like 20 pounds too much in my backpack.
Yep.
What I did was one match I shot. It was a pretty comprehensive sort of a match. I went through and made a note. Every time I touched a piece of equipment, I made a note on what I used, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the match, apart from a little toolkit, anything that wasn't on that list got taken out of the bag, and I haven't looked back.
No, there's no point having stuff that you're not going to use. One question I did want to ask you is, do you have a favourite kind of stage? Is there any sort of particular styles of stages you really enjoy shooting?
Yeah.
Or is that just the one that you clean?
The ones I clean, yeah, pretty much. Obviously, I'm kind of good at prone shooting, but I do like barricade stages with a bit of movement, like shoot houses, in and out of windows, that sort of stuff, because there's a little bit more planning involved. You really need to run the stage through your head a couple of times and realise that, oh, man, that window is small. I need to drop the bipod off. I'm not going to use the bipod by carried on there. I need to use the smaller bag, not the bigger bag.
Yep.
That sort of stuff where you really got to think it through, and there's an efficiency to your movement is required to get that stage done. And typically those stages have a bigger target, so they're easier to clean.
Nice. Excellent, Paul. Well, when's your next match? Not far away.
No, it's actually a couple of days away.
Oh,
this
right.
Saturday, Sunday. Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor. Yeah, fantastic, mate. Well, good luck for it. Probably by the time this goes out, you would have won it.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I'll just go ahead and get my name on the trophy now.
Well, let's just lock this down. Paul, the winner of the Lone Survivor match, thank you very much for chatting with us.
Well, Paul is certainly going there to win, but respectfully, he'll take any place he gets or he earns. There's some heavy hitters at this one, so this would be a great match to do good at.
Yeah, right.
And I intend to.
Who are you aiming to beat? Who do you need to
beat? Well,
beat?
Everybody on my team, basically. That would be Dave Preston, John Pinch, Jake Bibbett, my little buddy Matt Brusso, the golden bullet holder from last year. If you can get close to him and beat him, you've done really well.
Yep.
And there's a lot of other good shooters. So this is a match that attracts a lot of good shooters because it supports a good cause, the Lone Survivor Foundation.
You want to tell us a little bit about that quickly?
So who's seen the movie The Lone Survivor?
Hands are all up. I can see everyone's hands are up. Yep.
Marcus Luttrell. They help ex-military people with PTSD, assimilate themselves back in society and deal with all the things and problems that we can't appreciate as civilians.
Sure.
And I shoot with a lot of these guys, and they're very humble people, but it's surprising how difficult it is for them. So this foundation gets those guys back in. The guys that are taking it really hard, they nurture them back in society and help them. So, as we sleep peacefully at night, these guys are out there risking their life for our safety. So let's do what we can once they're back to welcome them back and help them in any way they need. And we don't need to understand it. We just need to understand it's important to do. That's all there is to it.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. It's really good to see, and it's a cause, different organisation, but a cause we certainly support and have promoted here previously, and I'm sure we'll continue to do. So I imagine, is the match full? Is this a packed out one, or is still looking for a few guys to go?
No, this one filled up pretty quick. I'm not sure how many's in it, probably somewhere between 120 to 150.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and it's really good to see something on that PRS calendar that is also going to that sort of the higher calling as well. That's wonderful.
Exactly. A bit of that happens through the year, and if there's not, the match isn't focused on that, there's stuff going on in the background all the time to raise money for these type of charities.
Absolutely great.
Pretty good group of people, these shooters, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, I've met a couple of them. They're all right. They seem good.
Not bad. I'm pretty good. Just ask me. I'll let you know.
Yeah, well, I reckon we'll keep them around.
Right.
Easy, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time, Paul. Good luck for the Lone Survivor and the rest of the other 9 matches you've got for the rest of the year, and I guess we'll see how you end up.
No worries, mate. And I know that your the event down there will be a success yet again. Anyone needs to reach out to me, feel free to through Facebook, and I'll do my best to give you a hand.
Sensational, guys. If you're listening, you'd be silly not to jump on and have a chat to Paul, and who knows, he might make some more videos with his fancy scope camera.
Well, just give me a reason to. I'll do it.
Wonderful, Paul. Cheers, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
Good on you, Russ. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by Impact Dynamics, advanced training for the precision shooter.